Virginia was settled in 1607, nearly 2 decades before the Pilgrims reached Plymouth Rock. 4 centuries of colonial conflict, Civil War carnage, plantation slavery, and institutional confinement have left behind more than monuments. They have left behind residents who never moved on, not in battlefields or cemeteries, in houses, places where families lived, where children slept, and where something happened that the walls have never forgotten. In certain counties, locals will tell you plainly that there are houses you should not visit. These are 12 of them. Now let us begin. Number 12. We start in Surry County along the James River at a house most historians consider the oldest documented brick dwelling in the United States. It is called Bacon's Castle. It was built in 1665 by Arthur Allen, a wealthy merchant and justice of the peace. The house is a rare example of Carolean architecture. Triple-stacked chimneys rise above shaped Flemish gables. Carved compass roses decorate the cross beams in the main rooms. Only 3 houses of this style survive west of the Atlantic. The other 2 are in Barbados. The National Park Service designated it a National Historic Landmark in 1960. In 1676, followers of Nathaniel Bacon seized the property and used it as a fort for 3 months. Bacon himself never set foot inside. The house later passed to the Hankins family. Captain James Hankins survived the entire Civil War only to be killed in a duel at Isle of Wight Courthouse in 1866 over insults exchanged in a tavern. The tragedy sparked a feud between 2 prominent Tidewater families that lasted decades. His sister Virginia never married. She sold the estate in 1872 to pay debts and provide for her younger siblings. She moved to Richmond, became a school teacher, and died alone on Christmas Eve, 1888 at 43. Today, preservation. Virginia operates the property as a museum on 40 acres of original outbuildings, slave quarters, and a rare 17th century English formal garden. Tour guides report hearing footsteps on the 2nd floor when the building is empty. A floating orb of light drifts through the upper rooms. A woman has been seen standing in the garden on multiple occasions. Staff believe it is Virginia Hankins, a woman who gave up everything for her family and never left. A house that has stood for 3.5 centuries will collect its ghosts, but the next house did not have to wait centuries. The horror came within its first few years. Number 11. In the rural western reaches of Virginia, in Wythe County near Fort Chiswell, a mansion sits at the end of narrow back roads that wind through hills and farmland with no cell service and few signs. Visitors describe feeling lost and disoriented before they even find the property. The oldest sections of Major Graham's mansion date to the 1830s, but the event that turned this place haunted happened much earlier. In 1786, 2 enslaved men killed their master. They were captured and hanged from a tree on the grounds. The tree stood for over a century. Doors slam without wind, cold spots drift through rooms and vanish. Objects move overnight. Guests report a crushing feeling of dread in certain rooms that lifts the moment they step out. EVP recordings have captured voices that sound like pleading. The house has been featured on paranormal television programs. One cameraman described his fully charged battery draining to dead in under 4 minutes while standing in the upstairs hallway. A mansion in the middle of nowhere, haunted by violence, nearly 240 years old. But what happens when a house sits on land that was already carrying something before the first brick was laid? Number 10. On the coast of Virginia Beach, the Ferry Plantation house was built in the 1830s, but the land beneath it reaches back to the 1600s, when this site served as a ferry crossing on the Lynn Haven River. Over the centuries, the property functioned as a plantation, schoolhouse, post office, and courthouse, each purpose layered over the last, each one leaving something behind. In 1706, a woman named Grace Sherwood was accused of witchcraft and subjected to a trial by water in the Lynn Haven River near this very property. She was one of the only people convicted of witchcraft in the entire colony of Virginia. Today, the house is reported to have 11 ghosts. a talkative male spirit appears to visitors regularly. The Witch of Pungo has been spotted near the tree line at dusk. Visitors report cold drafts in rooms with sealed windows and the feeling of a hand brushing against their arm when no one is beside them. 11 ghosts in a single house, and one of them a convicted witch. But the next house is not haunted by strangers. It is haunted by the woman who lived there and never stopped waiting for a soldier to come home. Number 9. Along the Route 5 corridor in Charles City County, Edgewood Plantation was built in 1850. It is a Gothic revival structure surrounded by old-growth trees and fields that slope toward the James River. During the Civil War, a young woman lived here. Her fiancé left for battle and never returned. She spent her remaining years pacing the hallways, watching from the windows. He never came. She died in the house, and according to every person who has owned the property since, she never left it. Edgewood now operates as a bed and breakfast. Guests report footsteps above them when no one is checked in upstairs. A rocking chair on the porch moves on perfectly still evenings. The primary apparition is a woman in a long dress, seen in the upstairs hallway near the window that faces the road. She appears at dusk. She stands still, and then she is gone. The owner confirms the reports are consistent year after year. The same hallway, the same window, the same time of evening, a story of love frozen in place. But the next location is haunted not by love. It is haunted by something far darker, something that happened behind closed doors to people the outside world chose to forget. Number 8. In the small town of Gordonsville, Orange County, the Exchange Hotel was built in 1860 as a rest stop for passengers on the Virginia Central Railroad. Weary travelers would step off the train and find a clean room and a warm meal. That purpose lasted less than 2 years. In March 1862, it became part of the Gordonsville Receiving Hospital. Over 70,000 soldiers were treated within its walls. 23,000 sick and wounded passed through in a single year alone. Casualties arrived by trainload from Cedar Mountain, Chancellorsville, the Wilderness, and Brandy Station. Surgeries were performed on dining tables. The hotel treated soldiers from both sides. 26 Union soldiers died inside the building. More than 700 men were buried on the surrounding grounds. After the war, it served as a Freedmen's Bureau hospital for formerly enslaved people. It was added to the National Register in 1973. Museum staff report moaning in empty hallways. Visitors have photographed shadow figures in what appears to be military clothing. Cold spots cluster near the rooms where surgeries were performed. On separate occasions, multiple visitors with no connection to one another reported the smell of blood and antiseptic in the upstairs corridor. EVP recordings contain what sound like soldiers calling out names no one recognized. 70,000 men passed through those walls. 700 never left the grounds, but the next building was not built for healing. It was built for a family who wanted to stand above the Blue Ridge Mountains, and what they left behind has been decaying for over a century. Number 7. On the summit of Afton Mountain, where the Blue Ridge Parkway crosses the Shenandoah Valley, a marble palace sits hidden among the trees. Swannanoa took 8 years to build and was completed in 1912 for Major James Henry Dooley, one of the wealthiest men in Virginia. He built it for his wife Sally May. It was modeled after the Villa Medici in Rome. Tiffany glass windows, Italian marble floors, a grand staircase that swept through a central atrium 3 stories high. Dooley died in 1922. Sally May died in 1925. With no heirs, the palace became a country club, failed during the Depression, sat empty through the war, and was rented by the University of Science and Philosophy until 1998. Since then, it has been deteriorating. The marble is cracked, the windows are broken, the grand staircase is rotting, vines have climbed through the walls. Investigators believe the Dooley family is still there. Visitors report a woman's laughter in the empty ballroom. On clear nights, locals on Afton Mountain have seen a faint glow in the upper windows despite the building having no electricity for years. The current owners have announced plans to restore the property. Whether the Dooleys will welcome that effort remains to be seen. A palace in ruins on a mountaintop, haunted by the family who built it. But the next house carries something different entirely, something underground. Number 6. In the town of Leesburg, Loudoun County, a mansion originally called Carlheim was built in 1872. Today, it is Paxton Manor. Part of it serves as an education center for young people with disabilities. The other part operates as a commercial haunted house attraction during the Halloween season. The reason the attraction works so well is that the building itself is genuinely haunted. A natural underground body of water flows directly beneath the foundation. Some researchers believe subterranean water amplifies paranormal energy. The theory is debated, but the activity at Paxton Manor is not. Shadow figures move through doorways. Voices with no source have been recorded. One employee heard a conversation between two people in an upstairs room that was supposed to be empty. When he opened the door, no one was inside. The air was 15 degrees colder than the hallway. Researchers believe the Paxton family may never have left. Locals in Leesburg will tell you the attraction is not the scary part, but the next entry involves something different. The spirits here do not just linger, they interact. Number 5. In Newport News, a house built in 1897 was originally the Simon Reed Curtis House. It served as a family residence, general store, post office, tax office, and hall of records. Today, it operates as the Boxwood Inn. The center of the activity is the attic. A spirit resides there that investigators describe as chatty. Unlike most hauntings, this ghost responds to questions. EVP sessions have captured clear, direct answers to questions asked aloud. Guests at the bed and breakfast report hearing full conversations through the ceiling. 2 voices, sometimes 3, speaking in low keys as though trying not to be overheard. When staff check the attic, no one is there. Objects stored in the attic rearranged between visits. A stack of books placed on the left side of a shelf was found neatly arranged on the right. No one had been upstairs. A ghost that answers when spoken to is rare. Most spirits in Virginia are not so accommodating. The next house is haunted by something that does not want to communicate. It wants to be left alone. Number 4. In Charles City County, about 5 miles north of Hopewell, Shirley Plantation stands on the James River. The land was settled in 1613. The Hill family acquired it in 1638. The mansion was completed in 1738. 11 generations of the same family have lived there. It is the oldest family-owned business in North America, a National Historic Landmark since 1970. Inside, a hand-carved walnut staircase rises 3 floors without any visible means of support. It is the only floating staircase of its kind in America. The house is surrounded by original outbuildings, including a kitchen, with quarters for the enslaved workers who were forced to live and labor there. The 1787 Virginia tax census recorded 134 enslaved people across the Carter family properties. Anne Hill Carter was born in this house. She married Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee in the parlor in 1793. Their son was Robert E. Lee. The most well-known haunting involves a portrait of Martha Hill. When the painting is moved from its traditional spot, disturbances begin immediately. Knocking on the walls, objects falling from shelves, doors slamming in rooms where no windows are open. The activity stops only when the portrait is returned to its original position. The family still lives on the upper floors. They keep the portrait exactly where it has always been. The floating staircase creaks with footsteps in the middle of the night when no one is on it. Visitors have described the scent of perfume drifting through rooms that have been sealed for years. 11 generations living alongside whatever else resides there. But the next house has no living residents at all. Only the dead remain. Number 3. In the Shenandoah Valley, the city of Staunton sits along the railroad corridor that has connected Virginia to the rest of the country since before the Civil War. The train depot is a charming brick station by daylight. Nothing about it suggests what happens after dark. In 1864, Union soldiers burned the depot down and several people died in the fire. A derailment in 1890 destroyed the station again. A nearby mental hospital operated for decades under conditions later documented as inhumane. Patients were confined in overcrowded wards. Some died without their names being recorded. Investigators describe the depot as layered. Spirits from different centuries occupy the same space. A little girl killed in a train accident. A Confederate soldier in a gray uniform seen on the platform after midnight. Older individuals matching descriptions of former hospital patients. Figures in 1890s clothing consistent with the era of the derailment. Visitors hear a child laughing when no children are present. Cold drafts move through the building in patterns that do not match the ventilation. One investigator watched a shadow figure walk the full length of the platform and step off the end as though boarding a train that was not there, a station where the dead from 3 different centuries share the same platform. But the next house makes Staunton look quiet because what happened there was not an accident. It was deliberate. Number 2. In the heart of colonial Williamsburg, the Peyton Randolph house dates to approximately 1715. It is one of the oldest surviving buildings in the historic district. Peyton Randolph was the first president of the Continental Congress. The house was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1970. During the Civil War, it served as a hospital for soldiers wounded at the Battle of Williamsburg on May 5, 1862. Surgeries were performed in the parlor, blood soaked into the floorboards, and beneath the house, something older was disturbed. During construction of the Colonial Parkway Tunnel in 1941, workers discovered at least 2 Native American burial sites on the property. The remains were removed. They were never properly reinterred. The graves were never closed. Staff report a figure in colonial clothing in the upstairs windows after hours. Visitors feel a firm hand pressed down on their shoulder near the entrance. When they turn around, no one is behind them. Children have been seen in second-floor windows when the house is locked and empty. Cold spots persist in the surgery room even in July when it is 95 degrees outside. Some researchers believe the most intense activity is connected to the graves torn open in 1941. 3 centuries of the dead, layered beneath the feet of tourists who walk through every day without knowing what lies below. But our final entry surpasses even this. It is a place so haunted that investigators have called it the most active paranormal site on the entire East Coast. And it began as a school for boys. Number 1. In the city of Radford, in the New River Valley of southwestern Virginia, a massive stone building sits on a hillside above the town. It is visible from the main road. Locals drive past it every day. Most of them will not look at it for too long. None of them will go inside. It is called St. Albans Sanatorium, built in 1892 as a Lutheran boys' school. The classrooms were filled with children. The hallways echoed with footsteps and voices. That period did not last. The building was converted into a hospital for the mentally ill. Patients arrived from across the region. Some had been committed by their families. Some had been sent by the courts. Many had no advocate, no visitor, no one who checked on their condition. The treatments administered would today be classified as torture. Records were lost or destroyed. Stories passed through generations of Radford families describe patients who entered and were never seen again. Not in discharge records, not in death certificates, not anywhere. The hospital closed, the building was abandoned, it has never been demolished. It stands today exactly as it was left. The windows are dark, the hallways are silent. Investigators have called St. Albans the site with the highest rate of documented paranormal activity on the entire East Coast. Multiple teams have spent nights inside. Shadow figures move through hallways in patterns, as though walking a route they walked thousands of times before. Doors open and slam in sequence down a corridor, as if someone is checking each room. One spirit on the lower floor is believed to be a former staff member. It behaves aggressively toward women who enter the building. Female investigators have reported being pushed, having their hair pulled, hearing a voice directly behind them telling them to leave. One team from the Mid-Atlantic region spent a single night inside and unanimously agreed never to return. The last team to investigate St. Albans recorded 7 hours of continuous audio throughout the building. On the playback between the second and third hour, in a section of the basement where no investigator had been standing, a voice that belonged to none of them spoke a single word. It was a name. When they checked the old patient rolls from the hospital's final years of operation, they found it.